despite the cruddy weather that we've been having. Brian will be back next week. I don't really have any announcements except to say that the grant committee met yesterday and we're making really good progress working on our grant writing for the Sojourn House for Women. So that's really making some good progress. So I'm really excited about that. So I'm not going to introduce our guests today because they're doing their classification talk, so they're going to be telling us all about them. So two of our newer members to the club, Terry and Debbie Ohl, and I'm going to turn it over to them. And if everybody would mute until we get to the end, and then we'll open it up for guests or for questions. I mean.
Okay, well, I'm Debbie Ohl, and I'm going to try to speak first. And if anybody doesn't know, I'm sure you do by now, but Jody is our daughter and was very, very instrumental in getting us in the Rotary. And we'll talk more about that later. But I'm going to kind of read. I'm not a good public speaker and I get nervous. And so I've got some notes and stuff. So if I look down, that's why. But I was born July 2nd, 1950. I have one older brother, Mark, who's 3 years older. And at that time, I was born in Danville, Illinois, but we lived in my parents lived in a small town called Pence, Indiana. You probably never even heard of it. And it said, throughout my childhood, I lived in Attica, I lived in Lafayette, Indiana, and I lived in Williamsport. And I said, other than in my 70 years, other than a 5-month stint in Boise, Idaho, I've been a Hoosier all my life. So I've always lived in Indiana other than that time. I married at age 17. I was a young bride and I had Jody, my oldest, 1 month shy of my 18th birthday. So I got an early start, but we did okay. We had Stacy, our next daughter, in 1970, 2 years later, and our third daughter, Amber, in 1976. And most of the girls' life, we lived in Kingman, Indiana. I lived there for 18 years, raised the girls there. And I was a stay-at-home mom, and I loved every minute of it. I enjoyed my girls when they were small and as they were growing up. But when I knew our youngest was getting ready to go to kindergarten, I was trying to find a job, occupation that I thought I would be interested in. So I had read where they were having civil service tests at the post office. And at that time it was under civil service, and you took a test and you got a score and you chose your top 3 post offices that you wanted to be on their list. So I did. I chose the area, small towns. And 2 years later, I still hadn't heard anything. So they send a letter out and say, do you still want to stay on the list? And I said, yes. And then at the end of 4 years total, I had to take another test, which I was kind of glad because I got a higher score that time. And I was just about ready to take my 3rd test. And I got a call for an interview at Cayuga, Indiana, which was like 10 miles away. It's just north of Terre Haute, about 55 miles. And so I started as a clerk at Cayuga in 1982. So I was 32 when I started to work there. And I had a wonderful postmaster who taught me so many good things. And at that time, we sorted mail to all the local towns, and then all the districts by zip code. So we sorted, we bundled, and they went out. We had no sorting machines or anything like that. And they went from Cayuga to Lafayette, Indiana, and they sent them on from there. We had 500 mailboxes. There was no city delivery. So I had to start out learning the 500 mailboxes, the numbers and the names. And we had one rural route that we also sorted mail for. But I love dealing with customers. I've always been a people person. I love to talk to people and interact with them. And of course, in a small town, you hear their whole life story. And so I enjoyed it. I knew that was the job that was meant for me. In 1985, my first husband and I did divorce. And as luck would have it, the postmaster in Cuba at that time's brother worked at a local paper mill close by and decided to set me up with a blind date. So at 35 years old, I went on a blind date, first blind date I'd ever been on. And as they say, the rest is history. It was Terry. And we hit it off right away, and we're married in May of 1986, and we're getting ready to celebrate our 35th anniversary in May. So it's been wonderful. And at the time, he had been divorced too, and he had 2 girls. So we ended up 5 girls, raising 5 girls. And between all 5 of them, every one of them wanted to be in sports. So we had basketball, volleyball, swimming, tennis, and Jody was in drama. So between all that, and that was at 3 different schools, we traveled usually 4 out of 5 nights somewhere. After work, we'd work all day, meet up, go to the ball games or whatever it was. But of course, we were young then, and we enjoyed it. So, and we were also very involved with our church family in Cuba. We did a lot with that. We helped with church camp and stuff in the summertime. And I'll talk a little bit more when I get to some of the volunteer things I've done. I'll talk some more. But 7 years after I started my job at the Postal Service, I got a postmaster position in Perrysville, Indiana, which was even smaller than Cuba. I think I've been a small town girl all my life, except I lived in Lafayette, like I say, for, I think my parents lived there 2 years. And I hear you speak of Bloomington being a small city, and to me, it's about the biggest one I've ever lived in. So I think it's pretty good size. But my office was a little red brick building, and it was no larger than a very small coffee shop. We had the one room, we had a little hallway, kind of like a hallway thing where I sorted the mail into boxes, and we had the bathroom, and that was it. But we enjoyed it. I had one rural carrier. She was a female also, and we got very, very close over the years. And then again, Perrysville didn't have city delivery, so everybody had to come to the post office. And there was only in the town, at one time, I guess it was a flourishing town. They had an opera house, of course, like a lot of the little towns did, and three banks, a hardware, drugstore. But when I got there, a foundry. When I got there, there was a Handy Mart gas station with a little restaurant thing there and my post office. So I always said that I was the only federal building in the town of Perrysville. So, but we had a good time. I had 227 boxes and 1 rural route. And being so small, I had to do everything. I mean, I had they called them PMR, postmaster replacements. But her and I could never work together. She only worked when I needed off, and she worked on Saturdays. So when the mail came in, I separated it, I put it in boxes, I sorted to the rural route, got that up. I had to wait on the counter, sell stamps, packages, all that. And I also had to do the janitor work. I cleaned the post office. I did snow removal. The only job I didn't have to do is they did hire somebody to mow the grass. So, which was not very big. It took about 20 minutes. But I loved it. And I got so close to the people there, and they'd come in and just hang around and talk. There may be 5 or 6 in the lobby at one time, and the lobby wasn't very big. But I was at Perrysville for 20 years, and I retired in 2009 with a total of 27 years with the Postal Service. I took great pride in my job, and I loved the company, and I was always so proud to say I worked for the Postal Service. But I can truly say that I think I got out at the right time, because since then, the Postal Service hasn't always been, real well. So I got out at the right time. We had a house outside of Perrysville, and we had 5 acres to mow. And so since Terry's younger than I am, and he was still working, I tried to get the yard mowed every week, and that kept me busy. I volunteered for Meals on Wheels, and I enjoyed that. I love going to the older people's homes and not only taking their meals, but of course they wanted to talk to you and tell them about your day and stuff. So I enjoyed that. So I did that after I retired. I also got to spend extra time with my mom. My father had passed away in 2005. And my mom, I got to spend a lot of time with her. I'd take her to the beautician. We'd go eat lunch. We'd get groceries for her. And I just treasure that now that she's gone also. So I was so glad I got to do that. Terry was set to retire in March of 2013. And our plans were changed after a follow-up CAT scan in late February of that year. I was diagnosed with stage 3B ovarian cancer. And as you may know, ovarian cancer is called the silent killer because you don't usually have pain or know anything's going on, and I didn't. It just was by chance that I had to have a CT scan for something else, follow up, and they found it. And so I always had told Jody, she had worked at IMA, of course, I think around 7 years as an oncology nurse. And in that time, I had come down once a year to get an infusion that I couldn't get up where we lived for osteoporosis. So I knew Mark, and got to know some of the infusion nurses. And then over the years, coming down to Jody's for different things, we got to meet Jean. And so I had always said, if anything came up, I wanted to come to Bloomington for treatment. And so we did. Terry retired March 1st. We moved to Bloomington, and we didn't know what we wanted to do for sure. We still had the house and 8 acres up in Perrysville. And we'd already started talking about downsizing because it was 3 levels. And we knew with the garage in the basement. And so we knew that there was kind of come a time, and it was sooner rather than later, because Terry broke a leg pretty bad. And we got thinking about steps. And so we rented an apartment while we made up our mind for 1.5 years. And I was undergoing chemo treatments at that time. So it worked out really good because Terry didn't have as much to take care of. So we knew, and after that, as that was going on and hearing, kind of things about the ovarian cancer and such, we knew we needed to stay close to Bloomington. So after I completed treatments, we decided we was going to settle here, sell our house up there, which we did rather quickly. I was glad. And we bought a home outside of Ellettsville. We knew what we wanted. We wanted an open concept. We wanted 1 story. We got 1 story. We don't have a step in or out of the house. And we love it here. We have about 7 acres here. Some of it's in a little pond and some of it's in clover, so we don't mow near as much as we used to, but we still enjoy mowing. Another reason we decide to stay is because with ovarian cancer, they won't ever say that you're in remission. What they say is, they call it NED, there's no evidence of disease, and that's where I'm at right now. And I can truthfully say this June, I'll be 7 years out. So I feel really good that I passed the 5-year mark. And I can honestly say from the bottom of my heart that Mark Dayton saved my life. And I truly, truly believe that. So after we've lived in Bloomington now 7+ years, and we feel so blessed to have made so many friends. We have an awesome church family at Clear Creek Christian Church is where we go. And we owe so much to our daughter, Jody, who has included us in activities that we have enjoyed immensely, such as the Rotary Toast, the Red Feather Gala by Cardinal Stage. And of course, we talked before that we got to help with the backpacks for kids, which was such a fun time, getting them ready and distributing them. I got to help a little bit with the flu shots. And then we weren't actually involved in It Takes a Village, but Terry and I helped do a lot of getting things to the warehouse and loading and unloading and that kind of stuff. So that was fun too. And most of our family lives relatively close. We have 14 grandchildren between the 5 daughters and enjoy spending time with our daughters and their families. As hobbies, I enjoy reading, I enjoy jigsaw puzzles, volunteering. Terry and I both volunteer at Opportunity House on Wednesday morning, and that's been a fun experience and enjoy it very much. We used to go camping quite a bit, but we're kind of getting beyond, because we always tent camped with some friends, and I'm kind of beyond laying on a tent floor on a mattress. So we haven't camped for a long time, and we still remain very active with the church family. Terry, in his talk, he's going to say some of the volunteer things we've done together, and so we didn't want to double up, so we kind of split that up. But we went on one of the great highlights is we went on 2 mission trips to Haiti. One was in 2003, one was in 2006. They were both for 12 days. That was an eye-opener. We had never been in a third world country, and I just remember when I first got out of the plane, the first thing that hit me was the smell. But we had a mission there. Our church had a mission there, so we stayed at the mission, and then we'd go out on day trips and do things. The church had 5 schools they supported, and so on one trip, our job was to hang blackboards, which of course Terry and another man was very good at doing, and then we repainted them because they had the chalkboards, but they had fallen off and they needed repainted. So we took the chalk, the facial paint you have to have. And the kids were so excited and the teachers were so excited. But those trips, the daily trips to school, we rode in the back of a small pickup called a tap. And we, very rough roads, and you held on tight. But one thing about the children over there, it doesn't matter how poor they are, they had a smile on their face all the time and wave, and they'd say blanc for white. That's what they called us all, blanc. And then they wanted us to take a picture of them, but they wanted a dollar picture. And so they had those things down pat. And we were warned when we first went on our trip, do not give any candy to the kids, because if they see candy, you're going to have 50 kids around you all at once wanting candy. So we had to be very careful what we did about that. The second trip, or I guess it's really the first trip. The second trip, we did the chalkboards. The first trip, one of the main jobs is, and they had in Haiti, the older people are, just a minute, excuse me.
They're kind of pushed out on the street. Their families don't take care of them.
Their families don't take care of them. Of course, there's usually 1 or 2 families in the little huts, with 7 or 8 people living in a 2-room hut. So our mission had decided they had land down over a hill, and they built what they called the Grand Moon, and that stood for older people. And so they wanted Terry and another man. They drew up plans how to make the beds, cement beds, like platforms for beds. And we went in and we painted it. They wanted it painted real bright. They had a big long porch in the front, and they got rocking chairs, so it looked kind of like a Cracker Barrel out front. And the older people were so appreciative, and they'd sing while you was working, and so that was very rewarding. But we just enjoyed those so much. I also helped with the food pantry, and one job that I did while we were up at Cuba was organizing and running we had 2 free rummage sales a year. People would bring clothes. Of course, we had to sort through trash bags of clothes and get the ones that you could use and separate them. And but for 2 days we just opened it up, and anybody could come in. Didn't cost them a penny to take any of the clothes, shoes, purses, bedding. We had it all. And so that was very rewarding too. And most of them always just thanked you so graciously when they were done. But so then, being involved with helping with Rotary, we got really interested, and we were both so thrilled when you opened up the family membership, and we just feel like we've been so welcomed by all of you, and we're looking forward to helping with any projects. I'm excited about the Sojourn House, and I think Terry is too, because it's just nice to know you can help people. And so I just thank you so much for making us feel so welcome. And that's pretty much my exciting life in a nutshell. But thank you.
Well, I was going to make a presentation today also, but my wife talks so long, I don't think I got any time left. I also worked in Indiana all my life, just about. I started out of high school, lived in Illinois just across the line, and got I guess you could say, an apprenticeship program at the Army Ammunition Plant at Newport, Indiana. And I worked there and worked up through their pay grades to a general mechanic, and was able to work there for about 2 years, and ended up with a pipe fitter millwright classification journeyman. And we worked on at the chemical plant where they manufactured TNT. And also that was the same plant that they had the heavy water there that they disposed of in the last few years, got rid of all it. But it was stored right there where we were working, close to it. And I got to work on the TNT lines too. That was quite an exciting time sometimes. I remember walking in the warehouse one night and there's 2 guys loading a box car full of TNT powder. And he's got one of those rubber blow hammers beating on the cardboard box, trying to make it fit into a space in that railroad car. And I threw down my tools and ran out of the building. And they come outside and talked me into coming back in, that was their normal way of doing it, that it won't go off by hitting them with a plastic hammer. So luckily we did have one small explosion. They said it was about 2 ounces. Got in a fan one time, and it took the roof off the building when the fan failed and rubbed and the powder went off. But that was the only thing, and they had a big investigation about that. And I don't believe there was 5 TNT lines, and that one line they shut down and never did run again after that because of that explosion. Well, after that, I was laid off for about a year and did home improvement work, contractors, self-employed. And then in 1975, I heard there was a paper mill at Cayuga, Indiana, was getting ready to start up. And it was the first one in the United States. It was 100% recycled cardboard. And so I went over there and they called me back and hired me on. And worked there for a number of years as a maintenance mechanic. And then about 10 years later, I got a job as one of the supervisors for the I&E group, and was with that for about another 10 years. Well, almost 15 years. And really enjoyed that. It was had a group of 8 to 10 guys, and we did all kinds of maintenance in the mill for instrument and electrical work. We had 4,000 volt power come into the building, and took care of everything from 2,000 horsepower motors down to, of course, little bitty guys, did all kinds of stuff. And the instrumentation, of course, that went along with it, we took cardboard boxes and made a liquid out of them, and run it through the system and cleaned it, and got that all cleaned up, and come out the end of again as a corrugated medium, which is the wavy part of the cardboard box. And then we did, after a few years, did some improvements and made liner board, which is the outside of the cardboard box also. And then at the later we were purchased by, well, actually 4 different times we changed hands of ownership. And the third time we converted the mill to make cream face and grayback, which is drywall paper. The cream face is the face paper, the white paper, but ours was unique to the fact that we had 2 layers of brown paper underneath the top coating of white paper. And it made it a lot stronger, so the drywall people could make the drywall without putting as much gypsum into it. So they called it light board. And it was a lot stronger because of that too. The nail pull through for the tests and stuff was a lot stronger because of the way it was made. But then continued on, I became the maintenance planner and planned outages, and every 30 days they had to have an outage, and then once a year we'd have an annual outage of a month and a half, and do a lot of repairs there also. And I coordinated a lot of that work. And of course, we had a lot of automation come into the mill too from starting in 75, distributed control systems. And one of the things that came along with all of that was computers. And we started our computer maintenance management system. And of course, most of the people in the mill had never even touched a computer before that. So one of the things they charged me with was training everybody how to use the computer system. So I had to write the training information and train everyone in the mill, about 120 employees, how to use all the equipment, to write work orders and purchase requests, supervisors to approve work, and to issue things out of the storeroom and restock storeroom and all that kind of thing. So that, and as we changed ownership, everybody had their own software programs. So as they brought in new computer systems, we had to retrain everybody, and I got to help with all of that too. Going through from the first day of making the corrugated medium, the plan originally was to make 500 ton a day, is what they estimated that we would be able to do. And that was 500 ton of recycled cardboard. And when the first upgrade that we did was about 6 months after we started up, we were at 700 tons already. And when we sold out the first time, we were making about 1,200 tons. And when we switched over the gray back and cream face, we ended up about 1,500 tons a day of recycled product going into making good materials. So we had quite a increase in productivity through all that, and had lots of input to get us to do it a little better. Did retire in 2013, as Debbie said, after 37 years with the paper mill, and really enjoyed that time. Well, some of it I didn't enjoy, but most of it I did. My personal life, working with my first wife in our local church youth group, being in a CB radio club and doing annual food and clothing collections. We collected things to go to Redbird Mission in Kentucky. And we'd spend the year collecting things to take down there, and we'd have a whole CB group go down there and haul all the stuff. We'd usually have 13, 14 pickup loads that we'd take down there every year, and really enjoyed that. I joined the Masonic Lodge during that time, enjoyed the service and the people, and also was in the Easter Star group, and worked with everyone there in the organization, and it was quite a good feeling to be around those people. They did a lot of good work. Our 2 daughters came along and our focus changed. But my first wife and I parted ways, and 3 years later I met Debbie and we were married. We had 3 daughters, she had 3 daughters and I had 2, and our life changed. Daughters' school programs, basketball, swimming, tennis, soccer, volleyball, and more basketball. And all family, 14 grandkids, and school programs, basketball, soccer, volleyball again with the grandkids. Debbie and I love our church, of course. We like working with youth group, Bible school, building props for when we used to do that. One of our biggest projects was we built a Noah's Ark, was 60 feet long and 12 feet high. And we took some of the recycled cream face and it was cut into 8-inch wide strips, and we let the kids come and draw their activities of the evening on a sheet of that paper. And then we stapled it to the outside and made it look like boards. And as it went through the week, they built the Noah's Ark. And then at the final night, I'd also secretly put a door in it. And we swung the door open, and they had brought in a bunch of stuffed animals. And then we'd fill the inside of the Noah's Ark with stuffed animals. The kids got to see all that. So that was quite an exciting time. The kids really enjoyed that. Other things, we used to cook Easter breakfast at the church for us and other couples, and cooking and serving meals for special events. And also I served on a church board during the time that we were there at that church too. We also had a Perrysville Lions Club that we were very active with. I was club president for a few of the years, and we had many community projects to, one of the things was the city park. We added playground equipment for handicapped kids. And we really like that, being able to put in the swings and the playground equipments for the handicapped kids to be able to work from too. Our annual fundraiser for that was we had a weekend of activities with 4 days of softball tournaments, serving by the club breakfast and lunch and dinner for 3 days, which our club put all that on. The meals were a big hit with the community. The Saturday night fish dinner was serving about 300 pounds of fish and fries, had kids games, and the parade that we had during that time was tractor and old car parade, along with a lot of local participants. And I was the chairman of that during that time. And Debbie already explained about us coming to Bloomington, and we found a church here we really love, and volunteer opportunities we've had here in Bloomington have been really good. After seeing Jody and the work that Rotary does, we felt we'd like to be helped with this, and we did a few times before joining the Bloomington North Rotary also. One of the other things I've done since I've been down here in Bloomington, I started my own handyman business, I guess you'd call it, and do a little extra work with that kind of thing. Lately, it's been keeping me pretty busy. Out of trouble, maybe is the word to use. And enjoy working for all the people. And I also have a, I guess you could call it a hobby shop of working on woodworking out in my shop too. But I do a little bit of that in my business. Mark and Jean have seen a little of my wood crafting things that I do. So I really enjoy that. And thank you so much for letting us be part of the presentation here today. Really appreciate it. If you got any questions, I'd be glad to answer.
All right. So thank you. And yeah, if you want to unmute if anybody has any questions, comments.
I have a question. Can you hear me?
Sure,
Yes,
Tim. Yep.
Yeah.
You talked about going to Haiti. I was in Haiti just for one day on a cruise and went up to the Citadel. Did you ever get up there?
No, we were never
Citadel
at
is
the
a fort that
Citadel.
was built by a.
We were really close to it. We were really close
Yeah.
to it, but we never got all the way there. The roads were too rough.
Well, we rode donkeys.
It
up
was a
there,
long
and,
ride from where we were.
a king, I guess he was crazy. He built that. Many people died dragging those stones up there. But
Mhm.
I had a similar experience, which I've talked to Rotary about some years ago. I went on 2 sister city trips to take glasses to Nicaragua. And it was a very rewarding experience, 8 days each time. So I would hope that someday you can do a program about your time in Haiti. That would be a very interesting for the club to hear about.
Yeah.
I forget the name of the
Yeah.
town, but it's the voodoo capital of the world. We did go there. We had a school there. Do you remember the name?
can't.
And they had a statue up on a hill of a man. I don't know, who he was particularly, but supposedly it's a voodoo capital, and you'd hear voodoo drums in the morning. We would sleep on the top, our mission. Of course, they had a kind of a dorm for the men and the women that came to help, but the mattresses and stuff they had, everybody said they had bed bugs. So we decided, another couple and us, we took tents and set them up on the cement roof of the mission, and we slept up there at night and could hear those voodoo drums at night, early in the morning. So it's quite a area there, but very interesting and rewarding. So.
Anybody else have any questions? Joe,
Yeah, Terry.
you got to
did you-
unmute.
Okay, am I?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're good,
Uh,
you're good.
At Newport, did you by chance get anything to do with the nerve gas section, or were you only in the TNT?
I was just in a TNT. The nerve gas, we could drive right by it, like going by somebody's house, but
Mhm.
never was involved with it. And we were confined to the building whenever they would have a test or a drill to practice for the leaks. And I got to be around the guys that went out and did that.
Yeah, but that's all gone now, isn't it?
Oh, yes, totally. In fact, they've opened the area back up now, and it's a industrial park, and they've got a walking trails through that area now too.
Well, thank you.
It was a very scary time when they were getting rid of it, though. We still lived there, and some people was like boarding up their windows because, they always said if you got a drop or two,
One drop.
and
Yeah.
they didn't want anything, what do I want to say, vapors coming into the house or anything. So some people got really scared, but it all went okay. There was no
Never was a leak.
no
No.
leaks.
Anybody else? All right. Well, thanks, Mom and Terry, for sharing about your lives and
Thank you for
your
having us
service
do it.
and thanks to my sister for editing. Mom's initial thing was 5 pages. Amber, my sister who's a
I
teacher,
write
got her
about
down
like I
to
talk,
1.5. Got her down 1.5. So thanks to Amber. All right. I hope everybody has a great week. Be safe out there, and we'll see you soon.
Sorry.
Charlie wants to talk to Terry. That's right.
Okay,
See you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
so long.